Well, good evening. We'll call the Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical School Committee meeting to order. And I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the September 19th meeting.
So, second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. And Mr. Dockery with introductions.
Introductions. Tonight we have with us Nancy Haney, one of our culinary arts instructors. With Nancy we have Bridget McHugh, and Amanda Duran. We also have Melissa Beckman, our academic coordinator down back. Beside her we have Cliff Peterson, one of our mathematics instructors, and Sue Stone, one of our early childhood teachers.
And Nancy behind the pole.
And Nancy Sevilla, behind the pole, one of our science teachers. And that's it.
Well, Kayla, now it's time for the student representative report.
Hello again. What a busy month this has been. Freshmen just finished their third week of exploratory. They're even closer to choosing their shop. Sophomores and juniors took the PSATs today. The general thought from them was that it was kind of hard, but they think they did really well. Seniors are in shop this week, and even more seniors have gone out on co-op. Many seniors have been working really hard on their senior projects, getting ready for their presentations in the spring. Seniors are also preparing for college. Between SATs, essays, and applications, everyone is starting to get really excited for what next year will hold. In other news, sports have been doing very well. All the teams have been meeting almost every day after school, with hard work finally showing off. Football, after a grueling beginning of the season, finally won their first game on Tuesday by a score of 33-32. The soccer teams have been doing well, both of them winning 3 games. The volleyball team has been doing great, only losing 3 matches. Similarly, both the boys and girls cross-country teams have been doing well, winning all except 1 meet. And lastly, there's our golf team. They're doing wonderful, winning 7 out of their 11 games. Everyone's hard work and dedication is really paying off. Before our next meeting, several things are going to be happening. Tomorrow night is the college fair. Seniors and their parents are invited to come and talk to Mr. O'Brien and several other colleges, along with several representatives from the armed forces. Also, on the 25th and 26th, the school will be having their annual career days, with a bunch of volunteers showcasing our school. On November 9th, our first quarter will end. Students have been working hard to keep their grades up, and all those who have been slacking off are really kicking it into gear. This month holds a lot for everyone, and we're all really excited for what's to come.
Great, thank you.
Very nice.
Very nice job.
And I'll go back to item 4.
I'd like to point out that Cale is also president of the National Honor Society.
Yes, sir, we went to
She did a
the,
good job up there. She really got some talent.
thank you. The chairman's report, regretfully, we accept the resignation of Donald Seymour, effective October 15th. And now to the superintendent's report, please.
Okay. The first thing is a reminder, the MASC conference registration. The convention down in Hyannis is from November 7th to 10th. We have 3 members signed up. It's a great conference for new members. There's a lot of good presentations going on, so I'd encourage all to go to that. Some great speakers. And the bonus is that we have a student presentation on Thursday, November 8th. Our engineering students will be presenting on their project, their zero-gravity related project through the Hunch program with NASA. So that's an added bonus. And that's on I believe it's November 8th at 2:30. Next item, the initial meeting of our Ad hoc Technology Committee will be next Monday, October 22nd at 3 p.m. in the conference room here. Again, the Ad hoc Committee is made up of Donna Cabibbo, Jean Mallon, Mark LeBlanc, our academic coordinator, Melissa Beckman, our academic coordinator, Jean George, our vocational director, 3 teachers, our vocational teacher, Kim Zugalis, Brian Rhodes, one of our mathematics teachers, is the academic representative, And Mr. Master Giacomo is the special education consultant representative. The parent, we have one parent. Jean, who's the parent?
Mrs. Scannell
Mrs. Scannell.
Scannell
And one of the students is
is going to be Gregory Canales.
Gregory Canales in our dental assisting program.
Yes.
And we'll begin, again, as we said, talking about our present instructional technology, the future of technology at Tri-County, student technology, learning management systems, and we'll be looking at the feasibility of adding a technology integration specialist in next year's budget. The next thing is the career day visits. Kayla had talked a little about them. Tomorrow, we have a visit from Medfield from 8:25 to 11 a.m. But our two big days are next week, the 25th and 26th. Our students have the day off. On the 25th, we have 805 eighth graders coming here. On the 26th, we have 599 students coming. And on December 5th, we'll have Medway and Franklin Charter School students here, 278 graders. Last but not least, November 1st is our grade 8 open house, which we encourage any of the school committee members to come to. We also invite students as well as their parents, so this gives us a great opportunity to present Tri-County to all of our prospective ninth graders. Update on the track and baseball benches. As you remember from our last meeting, there was some discussion around at the athletic subcommittee meeting. Tom Shanahan has looked at, he's actually contacted an outside firm who specializes in the evaluation of tracks, and he'll be coming out in November, beginning of November, to present different options to us on the repairs that need to be made to the track. We also talked about the baseball benches, and I'm pleased to report that Mr. Shanahan has enlisted our construction craft labor shop to build dugouts. So we've started to dig the footings, and we'll be pouring the concrete, and we'll be constructing dugouts in place of those benches. So that should be a well-needed change. The second last time, actually, as the treasurer's report on Allied Bank, Mr. Steves, as Mr. Brown had talked about at last meeting, did we ever consider putting some of our money in Allied Bank? Mr. Steves, our treasurer, sent me a memo that he hopes to have a report for the November meeting on this. So he'll be reporting to the committee in November on whether or not Allied Bank is an alternative. And last but not least, I just want to remind you, you've all received this summary of the conflict of interest law. We need to get those signed copies acknowledging that you received that back tonight. Thank you.
Now we'll entertain the presentation by Tri-County Green Club and Student Council. Yes, sir.
I have a question for the superintendent. I got some kind of a letter in the mail regarding who the delegate from Tri-County is to the conference. Do you know? Do we have official delegates, or is everybody?
I think we have an official delegate. Is it Mrs. Reynolds? I believe is the delegate.
Who is?
Mrs. Reynolds?
Linda.
You're the official delegate, and the alternative?
I thought the alternative was,
Mrs.
oh,
Cabibbo?
is it me? Oh, well. Okay.
Who's the alternative?
I am.
Donna.
I am.
Okay. The other thing, I like to propose is to the delegates, we are not represented at the Region 8, I believe we're in. I'd like to propose that the delegates try to find out how we can get Victor in there to be, on the board of directors or whatever they are for the Region 8, because Victor certainly deserves some credit for doing a lot of work with his people. So I don't know how this goes about. I see this delegate from, representative from this low tech school, that low tech school, whatever. How do these people get on there? I guess there's a nominating committee of some sort. I just don't know how they operate, but I'd like to have the delegates find out just how we could do that.
How, now, tell me again how we can get one of our
Correct.
people onto what?
Well, whatever they call it, advisory board or something for Region
For the
8.
region?
8, yeah. And obviously, I'm proposing Victor that we can do it somehow.
We can look into that.
I don't think you could get any better resources than Linda and Donna working on it.
Hey, Donna, you'll find out, hey, how do we want one of our people on there?
Mrs. Mallon, bring it down, we'll move.
Okay,
Yeah.
please, I was gonna say, because it comes down to be
Yeah,
little.
we're gonna see.
We have to move, Roy.
Yeah, I might want to move over here so you can see it better. And then there's another one right after it, PowerPoint. We got PowerPoint. She's taking us. No, you mean John Boyd? Mr.
So ladies and gentlemen, we want to talk about today the Tri-County Garden, which is new to Tri-County. And as you can see, this is Tri-County, our blue and gold is now green, garden green. And I think Bridget and Amanda will help me through as I move forward. I just wanted to start by pointing out that, and I'm not going to read the whole mission to you, I know you know our mission statement, but as part of the mission statement, we are maximizing the potential of each student for successful transition to full participation as creative, responsible, productive American citizens. And it's with this statement, with this mission statement in mind, that we also move to the statement and philosophy and goals of our school, which is to maintain the following, it's to support the mission and the philosophy, which is emphasizing developing our students to become citizens who demonstrate social responsibility, integrating between the academic and vocational aspects of our school, providing cooperative education programs, and then also promoting parental involvement and communication. And this garden, the whole project, encompassed each one of these points. So I'll let the students start off.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bridget McHugh. I'm a senior from Medway, Massachusetts. At the beginning, at the beginning of last year, we paired up with National Grid to start selling energy-efficient light bulbs to help raise money to support our garden. At the end of the couple months that we were selling the light bulbs, we raised $2,000 by this project that we created, or helped create. That, along with some other green activity innovations, led to us being awarded for excellence in energy and environmental education at the State House in earlier in May, and we got first place and we won $300 to help further our education.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Very, very proud.
So with this, all this money to help start, we decided to start a school garden.
What we decided to do, instead of digging up the ground, we researched and found earth boxes. They compose of several components such as a fertilizer strip to allow the perfect amount of plant food for each box, growing media aeration screen to provide proper oxygen to the roots, water reservoir, overflow holes so that way you can't overwater the plants, a mulch cover which helps stop weeds from growing and conserves water, and an optional staking system to help support the plants. Facilities management even helped us put together the 30 earth boxes in May 2012. Seniors in environmental classes helped add the soil and fertilizer to all 30 earth boxes, and Tri-County teachers donated their heirloom vegetables and herbs such as eggplant, tomato, and peppers. Some members of student council even helped plant the vegetables. The TC Green Club and student council helped water the plants all summer long. So we decided to donate all the fresh vegetables to the Franklin's Food Pantry. And we did.
By the end of the summer, we had donated over 350 pounds of fresh produce to the Franklin Food Pantry. Here are some of a student donating to the Franklin Food Pantry. This is what our garden looked like at the ending of June. of last summer. And this is by early July. We had to put the staking systems up because the plants were just getting too big, so they were falling over, so we needed the staking systems in by the end of that.
No one anticipated 5-foot-tall tomato
Exactly.
plants.
They were big. This is by late August, how the plants looked by the end. As you all have heard of SkillsUSA, for SkillsUSA this year, me and Amanda and one other person are doing the community service project, and we're using all the stuff we've already gained from this to help with our community service project, as well as we're going to start teaching people from the food pantry about how to cook fresh vegetables, using the fresh vegetables. So it's going to be really cool.
In fact, about 80% of the eggplant we grew were eaten by deer. And it all had to be placed in a compost bucket.
These are just some pictures of the stuff we grew over the summer and everything.
We even composted. All of the eaten eggplant, rotten vegetables and leaves that fell off the plant were all placed in this compost bucket and will be used for next year's soil.
Needless to say, the eggplant was only one bitten out of every one. The deer only would bite one out of every single one. So.
And they, of course, waited till they were almost ripe, right?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. It had to be always ripe, and then they would bite one and just leave it and go on to the next one, of course.
Now, can I just ask a question? How did you know it was deer?
Because there's deer, we can see the deer in the
Yeah,
back.
Oh, okay, I just wasn't sure.
No, we know.
Just curious why,
it's
you
deer.
know, there have been a lot of other
Nancy and
times.
I came up on the weekends, and I'd be up here at like 6 in the morning.
Yeah,
before
and they
my
were
day,
there with the deer.
There they would be.
The gardening project was even brought into the classroom. During the environmental science classes, we studied soil as a part of the curriculum. And last year, because of the garden, we even compared garden soil nutrient requirements and tested various hypotheses during inquiry labs. There's one student doing just that. And of course, that's soil that the students are doing some other inquiry test on.
In my shop, we did a lot of the watering, we did a lot of the picking, but I did a lot of explaining about the heirloom vegetables. We had all different types of peppers, and we took them all and sampled them all, and they tried them all, and they really got a good taste of all different types of peppers. Then we'd bag them all for the food pantry.
Since the summer is now over, but May is right around the corner, so we're trying to make the garden even better than it was last year. So some of the stuff that we need is to replenish our garden in the soil supplies. Consider improving the watering system. Maybe have a couple of the shops help by developing a watering system that will help make the time less. Cut our time down. It would we were out there for about 3 hours sometimes watering the garden every day. So install a border fence so the eggplant can be protected by a nice deer. Add a staking system into the earth boxes that would come with the earth boxes because we added one in late because it didn't come with the earth boxes. Motivate even more students to come maintain our garden during the summer months and investigate donations to other maybe soup kitchens and food pantries in the local area. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thoughts, questions that we'd be happy to entertain if anyone has any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I happened to see that garden of yours, and I was very impressed with it.
Oh, thank you very much.
And that was the end.
Yes, and that was that's right, it was
Yeah.
towards the end of the growing season. And I wouldn't mind having one of those boxes myself. But my question is,
You can sell those.
you ever thought of expanding and maybe putting up a greenhouse so you can do this year long?
We have a whole plan that we'd like to institute, and we've presented it, and a greenhouse is in it. We'd like to plant some in the ground, maybe in some raised beds, so that we can compare, plants with students and stuff like that too. We really want to bring it more into the classroom. So we have a whole plan, we have an area, we're just working towards that goal.
Excellent. That's
Yeah.
great.
I was impressed with everything. It just, the benefits of it just went so far and in so many different directions. But I'm curious how you felt just personally. Did you enjoy it? Was it a lot more work than
We
you
had-
thought?
no.
What was your reaction?
Me and Amanda came every other Monday during the summer and watered the plants, came. And it's so nice, like seeing, I actually got to donate the food at one time, but they actually weren't there, but I got to go and see how it all works and stuff. And it's so nice to help out the community and see like having to help people who are in need and who can't have enough money to maybe make food, and have them have the option of getting the food was really, it benefited me a lot.
Yeah, it was a really good experience, and hopefully next year it can be better, and it like can impact like more people, get more
Not just the
food.
Franklin area.
And like with the cooking classes, really help people so they understand like how to cook the food that we bring to them, and just really make it like a better.
Well, the Franklin Food Pantry services 600 families a month. So once we started, we were, people said, well, you should give to others, and we're like, yeah, but I feel so bad taking it from them now that we've already committed to them. So we just kept our commitment to them, and then we investigated other ones, and we'll rotate in next year.
They would not ordinarily have fresh produce.
No.
No, yeah, and, we had abundance, really, if you saw the tomatoes and the peppers and
Yeah.
Look better than
we
I
were
do.
bringing like 50, 60 pounds a week down to them, and we only donate one day a week, so it was a lot of produce, and they really appreciated it, and they really liked it, and they liked it when, we always worked students with us, and
And we had parental commitment as well. There were parents that were driving their students, their child, to come so that they could water a certain day of the week throughout the entire summer.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
it comes
it's
down
such
to
a
the
big,
pantry.
I'm the only one who had my license who would come and water, so I mean, for all those parents to help out is a big commitment.
Yeah, my parents had to drive me every other Monday up here, and I'm from Attleboro.
Right,
And
so
it's the next town over, it's not as bad.
we kind of took care of weekends because of the security and how the place being empty, so Nancy and I rotated them like
Excellent.
That was great. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
It was a great presentation. Thank you so much. We got another.
Yeah, their garden looked a lot better than mine did.
Better than mine. Well, I have the deer and the dogs.
It's amazing video.
Theirs look just as.
You know, all that
We're working on
fertilizer
it
too.
too. After going all that work.
We have another
presentation there. PowerPoint. You may as well.
Didn't we have greenhouses?
We used to, yes, but it was dismantled.
Yeah.
It was-
Right, I thought
Yeah.
both of them was greenhouses.
Right.
You were one or two.
I don't remember. I know that there was one that was this, it was over near back near HVAC is now. But we're working on a plan to expand.
I think you're doing fine.
Okay,
We're on the next agenda item,
yes.
MCAS performance summary.
Okay. All right, well, I'm certainly pleased to be here this evening to start the presentation about our MCAS performance. With me tonight would be Mrs. Melissa Beckman, our academic coordinator, and Mr. Cliff Peterson, and he is actually the Title I teacher, but probably the person who knows more about kind of the numbers and the statistics and all those kinds of things than anybody in the school. And for those of you that have been around for a while, you might recall that in 1993, ed reform was passed in Massachusetts, and then they gave us 10 years, 2003 was, I believe, the first year that our students had to pass MCAS in order to graduate from high school. In the two subjects are ELA and math, and in, I believe, several years after that, we added science. We do biology here. You've also probably heard about No Child Left Behind. It was legislation that mandated that all of our students reach the proficient level by a particular date. And then within the last year, Massachusetts, along with most other states, actually went for a waiver from the No Child Left Behind legislation. And they have come up with a different way to measure progress, and that is the PPI, or the Progress Performance Index, which we somewhat talked about earlier at one of the meetings in the spring, and I know Mr. Dockeray has shared some information with you all. So it's a different kind of a metric. We're actually being compared, we're actually comparing, like, we're not comparing to other schools. We're given a benchmark, and we have to reach it from now until 2017. These two individuals, Mrs. Beckman and Mr. Peterson, really do, they do most of the work when it comes to this. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to them.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome everybody. So Cliff and I and Jean put together just a little bit of data for you to show you our MCAT scores for this year for English, math, and science. We're just going to take you through that. So the first one we're going to talk about is math, and it talks about 2010, 2011, and 2012. And as you remember from last year, the big thing in math was that we did not make AYP in math. Our scores were not as good as we had hoped they would be. So in math last year, Cliff and I kind of got the math department together and we did an item analysis. And we sat the math department down with their item analysis and asked them to go through it and basically look at the data and ask themselves for questions that the students got wrong. For a majority of those questions they got wrong, you know, when did they teach it, how did they teach it, and to really change the way they looked at it. Maybe some teachers taught it earlier in the year, some teachers taught it later in the year. Did they differentiate their teaching, and really focus on those questions that we typically got wrong in 2011. And the math teachers did a fabulous job. As you can see, our scores this year in math were pretty outstanding. I mean, our math scores, we had 36% advanced, 49% proficient. We went down to 15% needs improvement, and only 1% for failing. So we did make great strides in math. So we were very proud of our math department and everything we did with them. So as we move over to biology, we see that from 2011 to 2012, we kind of didn't do as well as we wanted to. Our scores have gone down this year from last year. So I sat down on the first day of school with the science department, and I did something similar to what we did with the math department last year. And I gave them the same charge. I gave them their item analysis, and I asked them to go through and as a team do an item analysis and pick the questions that the students answered wrong most often, and ask the same questions. Did they teach those subjects, those topics? How did they teach it? When did they teach it? And on Monday, I asked them at the next department meeting to get back to me with their conclusions and then start implementing those changes. So they're gung-ho. They see that their numbers were low. They don't want those numbers to be low. And we're going to do all we can. And I am very hopeful that in the spring of 2013, when they take it, their numbers are going to reflect a lot of improvement, just like math did for last year.
Can we go back to math just for a second? Sorry.
Absolutely. Do you have a specific question?
No, I just wanted to see the differences between the 12, the 10, 11, and 12 years. Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so that was biology. And then as we move to ELA, we look at that and we say, okay, so what do we notice about ELA? Well, the biggest thing I noticed is that we had absolutely no failures this year, which was fabulous. But the thing that we have to look to is, yes, we had no failures, but our advanced and proficient are really stagnating now. They're staying the same. So my charge to the English department was, let's try to move more proficient to advanced and more needs improvement to proficient. So they're looking at their item analysis and seeing how they can move more people over. So, I mean, their scores look fine, but we can always do better. So that's what they're looking at. So every department is really looking to how to move their scores, some in a different way than others. Any questions on any of these so far? Okay. So then Cliff and I thought maybe we should just take a little look at how we do compared to the state. So we decided to choose math. Cliff and I love math. And Tri-County is blue and the state is purple. And the first bar graph talks about Tri-County versus state comparison in MCAS math. And you can see our proficient and advanced is higher than the state, and our percentage for our failures is lower than the state. The needs improvement is not even on there. It's just doing the failures and the proficient and advanced. And then when you look at our comparison versus to special ed, Tri-County special ed population versus the state, our advanced and proficient is higher than the state percentages, and same for warning and failure as well. We're lower than the state. So we really seem to be hitting the nail on the head. Yes, Bob?
Mrs. Beckman, just one question on the state. That includes everything or is just vocational stuff?
No, I believe it's the entire state.
Thank you. That's good.
Yeah. So I'm going to turn it over to Cliff to do some of the nitty-gritty here.
All right, I'm going to talk about the new accountability system. So the NCLB goal of 100% proficient is now replaced with the new goal of reducing proficiency gaps by half by the year 2017. What this means, under the AYP system, the goal was to reach all students, 100% of all students, proficient or above in English and mathematics by the year 2014. As we have mentioned before, our state has gotten a waiver from that system, and we've replaced it with yet another ambitious goal of narrowing the gap between where we were in 2011 and where we will be in 2017, so that we narrow the gap between where we are and 100% by half. The NCLB accountability status labels are now eliminated, and now we're only using levels for all schools. So now you don't see targeted assistance or school-wide improvement plans for year 1, year 2. Now it's just a 5-level system that denotes how much DESE involvement becomes apparent in that school. The AYP replaced with the new Progress and Performance Index, the PPI, that incorporates student growth, biology test results, the dropout rate, graduation rate, and advanced test scores. So the original system only really looked at people getting to proficient. Now there's actually points awarded to schools for improving your advanced test scores. Now it includes the biology test where it didn't before, and it also really narrows in on student growth, dropout rate, and graduation rate, which weren't factors before. The data reported now has a new high needs subgroup. This is an unduplicated account of all students belonging to any of these subgroups: the low income, students with disabilities, English language learner, and former English language learner. Prior to the system, a student that may fall into more than one of these categories would actually impact the results more than once. It could count against a school system 2-3 times. Now they just put all these groups into one high need subgroup so that nobody's duplicated.
So the levels that Cliff was talking about, these are the levels. The DESE has changed to the format. So you're either level 1, 2, or 3 school, and then level 4 and 5 are actually a subset of level 3.
At this point, there are only level 1, 2, and 3 schools. Over time, other levels will be used. And level 1 is when you're meeting your proficiency gap narrowing goals set forth by the state.
And as of right now, there are no commendation schools. There's no schools living in
Not yet.
commendation. Not yet. That's the goal. So this is our information, and we are very happy to report, as you can see, we are a level 1 school, which is fabulous for us. And to be a level 1 school, you have to, you have to hit the target of 75 or higher. So we have done that for all students and high need students. Those are the 2 categories. And as Cliff said, the high need students incorporates the low income, the ELL, students with disabilities. They're all grouped together. So you can see the 75 is the target that we surpassed that benchmark in both of those, and which is how come we did make that level 1 status. So we're in very good shape. Yep.
ELL again, what does that mean?
English language learners.
English language. I thought it was English language, but I'm trying to figure out.
So that's very great news. So, and the class that took the MCAT last year that we showed, the 2012, 100% passed the English, 99 at this point have passed math, and 96 have passed biology. We're hopeful that in the spring of this year, when they all have been retested, we'll have 100%. That's our goal for them. And then this year's graduating class, we're happy to report, we have 100% have passed English, 100% have passed math, and 100% have passed biology.
Awesome.
Good job.
Great, excellent.
Any questions?
Great, yeah.
I just have one comment. some of us were here when we had the change in the law in '93, when MCAT first came about. And I can remember seeing Tri-County at the bottom of the list of the statewide schools. So we've made tremendous progress. And, you know, we've always, in the beginning, we always complained that we were supposed to have two set of tests, one for vocational schools and one for the comprehensive schools. And as it turned out, I think keeping us on one test helped us get there faster. And I think we did it rather quickly. And I think your staff has done a marvelous job getting us there. And now we're among the best in the state for a vocational school. That's tremendous strides.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
What incentives does the state provide for level 1 schools? Like, what, are there additional grants that are available for level 1 schools, or there's nothing? Just
Their money's gonna go to the level 2s and 3s,
Right.
actually they're gonna go to 3, to try to improve. So there's where those particular schools, when they're labeled, will actually get more funds.
And you have the threat of the state coming and taking you over if you
Right,
know,
of
you
course,
don't,
right.
so, and you don't
Right.
want that.
No,
so.
no, I know that, but I mean, I just wondered, instead of performance being rewarded, it's kind of reverse, you know?
Right, yeah.
Right. That's what I expect.
Just a quick question. You talked about the plan for the biology department, the science department, and the ELA. I assume that we're going to have an ongoing effort in the math department to keep.
Yes, the math department,
Doing the
when I
same
met
sort
with
of
them on the
things.
first day of school, and I gave them their item analysis, and I gave them their results, and they were very excited about it. You know, we said, let's do the same thing again, let's look at your results, let's look at where the gaps were, and work together again to identify those weaknesses and collaborate to bring them up even more. And everybody's on board, so they have been working on that as well.
Do you think that any of the departments feel that some of what would be helpful to them would be some technology changes in terms of their abilities and things that they can use in the classroom?
Well, we have already implemented some technology changes. We actually had a full-day workshop for literacy with our English and social studies teachers. It was bringing digital media into the 21st century. We brought ed tech teacher into school for a full-day workshop. Some vocational and special ed teachers, social studies and English teachers were a part of it. And on the feedback forms I got, I would say about 90% of the feedback forms I got said it was the best professional development they had ever been to. We're bringing them back on November 30th to focus on math and science. And then we're going to bring them back a third time to try to catch the rest of the teachers that we didn't get. And it's all about technology, use of their smart boards, bringing in different kind of sites, document cameras, everything. And the teachers who took that couple of weeks ago have already started using it. That very next day, they went and they all were using it in their classrooms. They're writing me different lessons for PDPs or just because they want me to see what they're doing. They're loving it. So yeah, that is our goal, and it's only going to make them better, you're right.
So great, so hopefully we'll hear about some of that in our ad hoc technology committee on Monday?
Yes, I'd be
That'd be
happy to
great.
tell you more about that on Monday when I come.
Great, thank you.
Oh, yeah, Linda?
Question, is the technique of the item analysis something new that you've instituted here, or?
Well, they've always received their item analysis, but last year, I think, was the first year that we said, all right, this is how we want you to sit and do it. And it was actually Cliff who put it together with anybody who scored. It was a question that more than 50% of the students in the math department got wrong. That's clearly something that we're lacking. Red flag. So that's the question. I want everyone got a packet with those questions. Cliff put together those questions, and it was, did you teach it? When did you teach it? And how did you teach it? So the first question obviously is, did you teach it? Because if you didn't teach it, they didn't win. Then the next question is, when did you teach it? Because maybe you taught it too late in the year, maybe you taught it too early in the year, and then maybe the person who had great results on MCAS taught it at just the right time, so that person's item analysis maybe showed good results. So
collaboration made everybody work together to say, you got good results and I did it. When did you teach it? And then how did you teach it? You know, did you use differentiated instruction? How did you do it? So everybody worked together to make the best plan possible.
So is that collaboration?
It was great and that's what I'm trying to get the science department to do this year, the same exact approach.
Super.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. That would go off out of
Area of the school. My grandson started there. They had grandparents there.
Narrowing gaps rather than hitting them so it just makes so much more sense. And it's dynamic along with the population being dynamic.
Staff's done a great job.
Great teachers.
And
Great leadership too.
there you go. Continuing on, we're going to talk about the approval of funding for the MSBA Science Lab Initiative. Mr. Dockery?
Okay, I'm very pleased to report that the MSBA at their board meeting on October 3rd voted to approve our science lab project, meaning that we will get about $863,000 to fund the renovation of our 5 science labs. So we're really pleased about that. Tonight, we need to take a motion and vote to approve the total amount with the, as I said, we're looking at a 50.79% reimbursement rate. We'll start work, we'll go out to bid sometime in early winter, probably beginning of February. With the work, we'll hope to get it done, we will get it done by the end of next, on time for school, next September. So, toward that, we have a motion that Donna's going to make.
This seat next to Steve is really getting it, okay.
So that we can,
I make a motion that the Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical High School Committee hereby appropriate the amount of $1,773,566 for the purpose of paying costs of renovating 5 science labs as part of the MSBA Science Labs Initiative program, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto. The project, which proposed repair project, would materially extend the useful life of the school and preserve an asset that otherwise is capable of supporting the required educational program, and for which the district may be eligible for a school construction grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA. Said amount to be expended at the direction of the Tri-County School Committee. The district acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need as determined by the MSBA, and any project costs the district incurs in excess of any grant approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the district. Provided further that any grant that the district may receive from the MSBA shall not exceed the lesser of 1/50 7/900% of eligible approved project costs as determined by the MSBA, or 2, the total maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA, and that the amount authorized pursuant to this vote shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth in the project funding agreement that may be executed between the district and the MSBA. I second it.
Any discussion? All those, yes, sir.
I just wanted, when you said 5, that's 4 up and 1 down?
yeah.
Any further questions?
How do we plan on funding this?
How do we plan on funding the other 50%?
Our 50%.
Our 50%, we plan on funding through revolving funds that we have accumulated. As you remember at last month's meeting, we had about $2 million in revolving funds. So we intend to use that money to fund our half, so we don't have to go out to borrow.
Okay. We still can take some from our E&D account. if we
Yeah,
have
hopefully, yeah, if we had to. Yeah, we're hoping we can avoid that.
Now, in the original proposal, in the estimates, is there some built in?
Yeah, contingency, there is.
Contingency?
Yep.
Okay. Very good.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Consider that to be unanimous. Student field trip request, Mrs. Mallon?
We have a field trip request, which I believe you received in your packet, is actually it's a leadership opportunity for our students through SkillsUSA. It has been pretty much We've gone consistently to this leadership opportunity, and it is to build the skills of those students who are officers in the club. Well, as you know, SkillsUSA, all of our students are members after the 9th grade. The students leave here at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. They travel to Marlboro in our school vans, and they spend Sunday night and Monday night, and then they're there during the day on Tuesday and return to the school, probably after school, about 3 p.m. on the Tuesday. So I am looking for your permission to allow an overnight field trip.
I make a motion that we approve the SkillsUSA field trip on, what date is this? November 18th through November 20th, 2012.
Second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
There's going to be mandatory fundraising, so the kids have to raise the money.
Part of it.
Part of it, and where's the rest of it's coming from?
They
Activity.
they have had other fundraisers, and they will continue to do that.
Any further questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's also considered to be unanimous. Discussion of the warrant. Mr. Dockery?
The warrant subcommittee met and approved warrants totaling $1,242,770.80. Most of those were payroll warrants, $908,112. Operating warrants were payroll taxes and deductions, another $285,088.38. So $1,242,770.80 were approved by the warrant subcommittee.
All right, thank you. And then, just about our last one, topics not reasonably anticipated by the chairman 48 hours in advance of the meeting. Yes, sir.
Chairman, recently, at our previous meeting, we discussed, we had the marketing person come in and we discussed our marketing budget, and she did a presentation. I'm sure you all remember it. Since then, I've received a direct mailing from New England Tech. I'd just like to circulate this around so people can take a look at it, and I thought this might be an appropriate, it says on the outside, important career information enclosed, this might be an appropriate mailing that we could use to expand our adult education, a similar type mailing to expand our adult education program. I've since had discussions with the nursing staff, and the nursing staff feels that there is a possibility of, depending on the board, but there's a possibility of starting another nighttime LPN program. So you could run, potentially you could run two LPN, which would increase your cash flow, because these programs pay for themselves, and we actually make a profit on the adult education LPN program. It's just a question of marketing the program and making sure that the classrooms are full. Just like this, that's basically all I had.
Should we wait for the people to review that?
Oh, yeah, we would have to review that, yeah. We'd have to speak with Mr. Cosware, our Director of Continuing Education. I know there's, I don't know if space will be a problem, but I know we've had some issues with space, so, that'd be one concern.
Well, I think your night classes meet, what, 2 or 3 nights a week?
Yeah, I
For the
believe,
LPN program?
yeah.
So you could alternate those other.
Yeah.
You could potentially do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
And again, it's getting those bodies in here, so.
right, but it would have to be a
Yeah.
marketing.
Yes, it would, yeah.
You know.
I mean, we're in the process of looking at adding another adult education, a dental assisting program. So we're doing a feasibility study right now to look at whether or not that makes sense. So we are looking at expanding our post-secondary offerings.
I just like to see, build the adult education aspect of the business. It is a business,
Yeah.
education is a business, and which would generate funding for things like new athletic fields.
I think we also need to be careful when we talk about funding things for our academic-based vocational high school from our adult education, because there are rules and regulations around how and where we can spend some of that money. So, and isn't there a board that part of their charge is to be evaluating with our adult education? Don't we have an advisory board that looks at?
Yeah, we do have advisory committees
Right, so
for
this
all of them.
perhaps is something
Yeah,
that would be
exactly.
better presented in that venue than to us directly.
I believe
as
Mr. Brown used to be a member of that board.
Right,
one
so
of the
that,
advisory
so that,
committees.
because some of this becomes issues that have to work up through that process before they can bubble to here. And I get those things in the mail on my son all the time.
Oh, they're effective. They're effective marketing tools, you know? I just think that, you know, we're not spending enough money on marketing. I mean, we only spend
Yeah.
$5,000. That's
Right.
a pittance.
Right.
But I think that you need to separate the two pieces, that's my point. Just the continuing ed piece, which is a whole different venue than what we were talking about with the marketing when she came in that time to speak to us, where we were talking about marketing.
Yeah,
our
when
high
we say
school program.
5,000, we're talking 5,000 for the high school. That's what
Right,
we were spending on press
We're not talking about
releases. We
our
weren't talking
adult ed and
post-secondary.
continuing ed.
We spend a lot of money on
programs.
those brochures that we send out.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of money on those, 10,
So-
15,000.
Right.
So
And I
we do
just think
spend some money on
that we
that.
need to be careful about what we're talking about and how, and the fact that they are two separate entities, and there are things that cross over, and utilization of space and things, but that they are in fact two separate entities, and the assets and revenues are separate as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
maybe this would be, provide us with another opportunity for a show and tell for the, our evening program, because here again, I have the advantage of a little history with this school, and this program has seen tremendous growth,
Growth, yeah.
especially with our new, with our present director.
Yeah.
And I think it would be helpful for us to see how far we've come with this program, and perhaps present some new opportunities for the program.
I know Mark does make a present, he's already presented, I think he presented in June.
Yep.
Right, and he's probably due back in a couple months to present again. He usually presents about halfway through the year.
Yep.
So he'll go over, the new courses that we're offering, and he has expanded that adult education program twofold, threefold.
So can we nail down a date to take a January date?
Yeah, we could certainly have him come back in
January school
January.
committee.
Yeah,
February,
yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Can I bring one
Yes, sir.
another issue up? I was asking my neighbor here if she heard anything in the election process, especially for national offices and so on, whether there's any discussion on the state level about equestration. I've got emails from the National School Board Association. They're
Yeah.
pushing
Yeah.
for backing to send something to Congress, but I'm not going that direction, but I'm just wondering what would happen if that comes to pass and the federal budget gets cut 8.2%? What is it going to do to us?
Well, I think it will cut back some of the grants that we get, certainly. And toward that end, when we're doing grants now, we're trying to avoid putting salaried employees in grants that we're not using. We used to use a lot of our grants to supplement our operating budget to fund positions, but we're no longer doing that. Most of our positions now are all in the budget or in some revolving funds. We're not using the grants toward that. But I think that would be the big hit if that went through, is our grants would get hit. But I believe that's affecting not next year's budget, but the following year they're talking about.
Mhm. So we'd have a little time to
Yeah.
react.
What is
Sequestration?
Sequestration.
I think it's a term that they made up just this year.
Yeah, to cut, basically, isn't it to cut the deficit?
Right,
It's-
and they made a deal that if they hit a certain point and hadn't come to an agreement, that there would be a blanket
uniform.
cut
In January,
across.
right?
In January, yeah.
January, yeah.
But it
But-
won't,
It won't affect this year, it will affect the
The
following year.
following, fiscal year.
And there's a lot of talk about how exactly that would be implemented and what it would really mean if it comes to pass.
Right, right.
So,
Okay, how about anybody, questions on this side of the table? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, my question is it true that Don Seymour resigned?
Yes.
Okay. I move that we as a committee send a letter to Don for his service here. I don't know how many years he had here.
7.
It was quite a few. And to thank him for his time spent with us.
Second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just out of curiosity, he was our vice chair, is that correct?
Yes, he was.
Does that mean that we need to, at some point in time in the near future, are going to have another set of elections, I guess? Or do we do appointments here? I was a little confused.
Yeah,
I'll defer to the
we
superintendent.
had
Answer on this one.
elections.
Yes, but I thought they are
Yeah,
elections, so don't we have?
Right, so we'll have to have another election at our next board meeting to vote a new vice chair.
Okay, I just was curious about the process, thank you.
Any further questions?
Isn't there a natural accession
Oh,
process?
yeah, well, that's what I wasn't positive about, whether Mr. Wilkinson would just move up. I'm not sure how that works, so I'll have to look into that.
He's getting a
I
little
think,
closer to
I
the
think you'd
gavel.
probably want to do another popular vote, honestly,
Do we
or
have a sort of
unpopular.
bylaws that have that process written up?
Well,
Yeah.
What do we actually have that would
I
have that?
I think that it's just the
Ro-
parliamentary
probably the Robert's
procedure.
rules,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that
Is
you,
it
Right.
just straight Robert's?
yeah, and that you would
Yeah.
normally, that's why I'm curious whether at this point in time it's actually an appointment or an election.
Yeah, I'll have to look.
Just out of curiosity, and I
Just
won't
curious.
drag this out, but what does experience in the past tell us? What have you folks done before?
I think it's the committee will.
Next year, next meeting.
Next meeting, the committee can
Okay,
appoint somebody to fill the vacancy, subject to their approval, obviously.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn.
thank you very much. I was going to entertain that motion. Somebody seconded it, I heard that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.
I am so.